What is up, everybody? This is your boy, Teran Rodriguez, bringing you another edition of Set Point. And we have a lot of volleyball to get into tonight, as we have a jam-packed show, such as the AVP releasing its schedule for the summer. How long is the AVP going to last? Well, spoiler alert, it's going to be an extended summer. So lots of beach volleyball happening all over the place. And how about the men's volleyball scene? How about UC Santa Barbara taking down number 2 Pepperdine? Got some other upsets happening, as well as Concordia Irvine taking down UC San Diego on the road. Pretty impressive stuff. And obviously we have the match of the week in terms of NCAA men's volleyball, as number 1 Long Beach State, yes, they're number 1, taking on number 2 UCLA. And we got some junior college men's volleyball to talk about. All that and more here on Set Point. So set up the net, hand me a volleyball, because I'm about to serve you up some volleyball action today. This is Teran Rodriguez bringing you another edition of Set Point here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. And welcome one, welcome all to another edition of Set Point. I hope you all are enjoying your Monday afternoon or Monday evening, depending on where you are listening from. I'm certainly having a good Monday evening so far. It's been so far so good, and I hope everyone else is having a great, safe day. Without any further delay, let's get on into the volleyball action. But first and foremost, we have a word from our sponsors. The first sponsor for IE Sports Radio is the Southern California Warriors semi-pro football team. The world of semi-pro sports is unlike any other sports organization. Players pay to play in hopes of so many different outcomes, whether it's playing to get film to try out for professional teams, big-time colleges, or just playing to stay in shape. No matter what, all semi-pro players have one thing in common, and that's playing for the love of the game. The SoCal Warriors have been on a quest to earn titles and give players second chances since 2017. Whether you're in Southern California or anywhere in the world, give semi-pro sports a chance if you love your sport. You may get that second chance you have been waiting for as an athlete. You can follow them on Twitter at SoCal Warriors, on Instagram at Southern California_Warriors, and on Facebook by typing in the word Southern California and then Warriors. The second sponsor for IE Sports Radio is Background Check International Businesses. Are you looking to background check a new hire on? Let Kit Freeman take care of that for you. Kit has managed and founded Background Check International Businesses since 1994, and is here to help you with the screening process. Contact Kit and let him help make the hiring process that much easier. Just as a disclaimer, this business is used for professional background checks and not for the use of any crimes such as identity theft or other illegal activity. They do not have Instagram or Twitter, but they do have the Book of Faces, as they are on Facebook by typing in the word Background Check International BCI. They also have their website, www.bcint.com. And then IE Sports Radio is also on Twitter and on Instagram at IE Sports Radio, and on Facebook by typing in the word IE, then sports, then radio. They also have a website, www.iesportsradio.com, and when you go to said website, you will find a Patreon link there, and there's 5 different tiers, with the first one starting out at $5 a month. This donation gets you a shout-out from all 29 of our shows, and higher tiers include IE Sports Radio merchandise, access to IESRU, the podcasting university of IE Sports Radio, and you even have a chance to be featured on a segment of IE Sports Radio's flagship show, The Defining Moment, hosted by Larry B. Because for the past 7.5 years, IE Sports Radio has been bringing you amazing content ranging from interviewing legendary athletes, coaches, and other authorized media personnel to building tailor-made shows dedicated to major sports cities around the country. All the while, IE Sports Radio has continued to be by the fans and for the fans. And with your help, we are ready to take the next biggest step. Thank you, everyone, for helping make IE Sports Radio your direct feed for all that sports, because without you, we wouldn't amount to too much. And shout out to our Patreon supporters, Bay Area Raised Apparel and Mark Eslos Great. And shout out to our IE Sports Radio Fan of the Month for February, at Spuds Chat. He is a Los Angeles Rams fan in San Diego. Who would have thunk? And he has been a guest on 3 and Out throughout the NFL playoffs. And he and I even teamed up to take down a pair of passionate San Francisco 49ers fans. So there's that right there. Now let's get on into the volleyball action. So we're actually going to start with transfer news. So there were some noteworthy transfers that have been happening as of late, mainly from the Big Ten. But we'll start with the other noteworthy transfer that wasn't from the Big Ten. So this is middle blocker Abby Hansen, as she is going to be a redshirt junior to be, and she's a middle blocker, and she transfers from Oregon to UCF, the Golden Knights, as she had 140 kills for the Ducks, and she had 115 blocks, which led Oregon in that department. Now, UCF last year made it to the round of 32, where they lost in 5 sets to UCLA at Pauley Pavilion. So UCF has some good firepower returning. They have Claudia Dillon returning, who had 207 kills. Their question mark is McKenna Melville, who had 617 kills. She is a senior this year, but we don't know if she's going to be taking that 5th year of eligibility. If she does, that's another feather in UCF's cap. However, if it doesn't, then it means that Abby Hansen is going to be seeing more playing time. Though Melville was not a middle blocker. Hansen is a middle blocker. UCF does lose out on Anne-Marie Watson, who had 306 kills, which was good for second on the team, as she was a 5th-year senior. So, unfortunately for UCF, they will not be having her back. And they also lose out on Amari Williams, who was a middle blocker, a 5th-year senior. She didn't see much time on the court, unfortunately. But with Abby Hansen coming into the fray, I think that gives UCF a little bit more firepower. Now, obviously, the big thing for Abby Hansen transferring to UCF is the blocking ability, as she had 115 blocks, which was the block leader for Oregon, whereas for UCF, their redshirt senior and middle blocker, Narissa Moravec, is a redshirt senior. She led UCF in blocks with 164. So it's unknown if Moravec will be coming back. I highly doubt it, just because she's a redshirt senior, unless she gets one more use of a 5th of another option. But I highly doubt she'll take it, because she eventually wants to graduate and just move on with her life, possibly. So we'll see what happens when it comes to Moravec. Claudia Dillon is a middle blocker, as she had 98 blocks on the season. So that's another little bit. There's a little tidbit right there. Having Hansen and Dillon would be great. Heck, maybe one could play right side. Hansen is 6'5", and that would be a matchup problem for most opposites. And that would be rather fascinating if UCF were to do that. And if they do that, then that's really awesome. But if they don't, then they'll have to figure it out where Claudia Dillon will play if they do decide to play 2 middle blockers. We'll see. I think Claudia Dillon and Abby Hansen can work out. And I think Hansen can make a big splash with UCF. UCF has obviously been a perennial NCAA team. They don't really go deep within the playoffs, but they do play some stiff competition. Their conference kind of leaves a little bit to be desired, just because they come from the American Athletic Conference, and it's not really the deepest conference, but it still is somewhat strong. So for UCF, I think they got a bit of a splash here in terms of the transfer portal, And there's still plenty of off-season volleyball to come, so I'm pretty sure UCF will be getting another few transfers here and there. So we'll see what happens with the Knights going forward. Jumping on over to the Big Ten, this time we head on over to Penn State as Penn State managed to land a big outside hitter, and this one actually came from my neck of the woods. I was surprised to see this player transferring to Penn State as Kashana Williams, the former outside hitter from Long Beach State. She transfers from Long Beach State to Penn State. She is a soon-to-be senior. She had 452 kills, and as for her whole career, she has 1,000-plus careers back at Long Beach State, and she also had 111 digs and 59 blocks for the Beach last year. So she transfers to a Penn State team that got hit hard in terms of transfers and graduation, as it's not certain that Johnny Parker will return, as she was one of few players that hit or that played all 119 sets for Penn State this season. You have to remember that Penn State lost quite a bit of players to the transfer portal. They lost Gabby Blossom, Jenna Hampton, Annie Kate Fitzpatrick, and Caitlin Horde, who I'm going to be getting into in a little bit as well. So remember, you also got to remember that Penn State has a new head coach. They no longer have Russ Rose as their head coach. So the fact that Kashana Williams went from Big West Conference to Big Ten is a big jump right there. And I was surprised that Penn State, and I'm not saying that she's not worthy of being on Penn State, but I'm surprised she chose Penn State. She went from California all the way to frigid and cold Pennsylvania, or Happy Valley. So I think Kashana Williams is going to make a big splash for Penn State. I think she's going to fit in that program just fine. And the fact that she had those numbers last year with Long Beach State, despite them having to go through a new head coach or an interim coach, and despite not posting the biggest wins out there, I think Williams is going to make a big impact for a Penn State team that does return some of its players. It's going to be a big-time change in a new Penn State roster, but for me, I think Penn State with Kashana Williams is going to be a recipe for success. Now, obviously, Kashana Williams cannot do it all. They cannot have her carrying the team like Johnny Parker did or Adana Rollins. They need to have other players stepping up, and depending on who comes in terms of freshmen or who remains on the team or any of that sort, depends on what will happen with Kashana Williams. As we say hello to the chat room, Adam Karnick, as well as Gina G. Adam says he's sorry that he went over a couple minutes. It's all good, Adam. And he says go Concordia because he went to a Concordia school that wasn't Concordia Irvine. So all Concordias are the same in terms of brother schools. And then Gina G says, have an awesome show. My Stanford Cardinal fell to number 1 Hawaii at the First Point Collegiate Challenge, which was held in Austin on Saturday. Yes, I do need to discuss that. Right now we're talking about some college women's volleyball transfers. As Gina, I think you're kind of familiar with this player. Kashana Williams from Long Beach State transferred to Penn State. She was the one that I always like to interview after the Long Beach State women's volleyball games, and she kind of had those, I wouldn't say like the nervousness in terms of post-game press conference, but she said she did admit to me that she would get nervous when she was asked questions when it came to press conferences. But I am personally going to miss Kashana. I'm sad that she transferred, but it is her career, and I can't judge. So I wish Kashana the best, and I hope she does well with Penn State. I think it's going to be a great fit for Penn State, and I wish Kashana the best going forward. And Long Beach State will obviously be hurting a little bit, but they too will be moving on. They've got some good players transferring. They just got the kill leader from San Diego State, so Long Beach State is making some splashes here and there with their new head coach, Tyler Hildebrand. And Gina says she does remember Kashana and the interviews, so I think it's going to be a little bit weird not seeing Kashana, but I'll make do with what it do. So jumping on over from Penn State getting a transfer is Penn State actually losing one of their players from last year. As Gina asks, is the coach gone too? Yes, the Long Beach State women's volleyball coach from last year unfortunately got canned in the middle of the season. So they eventually hired Tyler Hildebrand as their new women's volleyball head coach, who I had the honor of interviewing last week or a couple weeks ago, and then playing the interview over the air on last week's episode of Set Point. So there was that. And the interview is also on the on the Set Point Twitter account. So there's that right there. So back to Caitlin Horde. So Caitlin Horde, this actually wasn't really recent, but Caitlin Horde transferred from Penn State to Nebraska. Now that's a big time get for the Huskers, considering they actually found out that Kayla Caffey wasn't going to be returning. So for me, Caitlin Horde going to Nebraska is huge, just because that already adds more depth to the Huskers. And Nebraska had so much depth going into the NCAA championship, and honestly, I think Nebraska is going to be up there in terms of talent. I think they're going to. I would not be surprised if Nebraska made another Elite Eight run or Final Four appearance or whatnot, because they have John Cook, a really smart coach, and while they did lose out on a few transfers here and there, they are getting another big freshman class. They should be getting some other big time. Some of their players from last year are returning. They may get some fifth-year seniors from last year's team. And then, obviously, the transfer portal is still open. So, getting Caitlin Horde is just the tip of the iceberg for Nebraska and their return to the NCAA Women's Volleyball Championship. So, I think Nebraska is not going to be anywhere near slept on. And then closing out the big-time transfer news is Wisconsin, as Sarah Franklin, the former Michigan State outside hitter and junior-to-be, has transferred to the reigning NCAA Women's Volleyball champion Wisconsin. Last year she had 404 kills for Michigan State, which led them in that category, 229 digs, which was second on Michigan State, and she also had 59 blocks, which was third on Michigan State. So for Wisconsin, that is a huge get, and they're already boosting their middle blockers, so the fact that they're also boosting their outside hitter core is really huge. They already have Julia Orzel, who was second on the team in kills with 309, but the fact that they're getting Sarah Franklin from another inter-conference transfer is quite amazing. And then you also have Devin Robinson, who could play middle and right side. And then Jade Demps also had a solid season for Wisconsin last season, as she had 189 kills. So for me, Wisconsin is not going anywhere. Everyone thought that Wisconsin losing Lauren Barnes, Sydney Hilly, Dana Retke, Grace Loberg, Danielle Hart, and Gio Savita obviously was going to be tough for them. But they're starting to rebuild and reload. So I think for me, Wisconsin is they're also going to be up there. Obviously, it'll be a different feel, but with Anna Smrek, who had herself a big NCAA tournament, I think that Wisconsin is going to be willing to defend their crown, because obviously Wisconsin has built a foundation, and the fact that they've been to, 3 Final Fours in a row is quite something. And then 2 of those 3 Final Four appearances saw them making it to the NCAA tournament, and this past season, Wisconsin was able to win it all. So for me, I'm really impressed that Wisconsin was able to land this transfer. My only thing is that how is Sarah going to be fitting in with Jade and Julia? Like, will Sarah be getting most of the reps, or will Orzel and Demps be able to squeeze in? I think that Kelly Sheffield can can make it all work with those three outside hitters. I mean, he was able to make it work with Dana Retke and Anna Smrek despite Danielle Hart going down with injury. So for me, I think that Wisconsin is in a great situation, as we also say hello to Mike Pat in the chat room. He says, have a great show. I appreciate you. But back to Wisconsin women's volleyball. This is definitely going to be something to watch for Wisconsin. And the fact that they also have Caroline Crawford, who they just got from Kansas, and then they also got another talented middle blocker from Boston College, it's definitely going to be something to watch for. And I think Wisconsin is still going to be the team to beat. They won't have that same feel of having Dana Retke, but I think that Wisconsin is definitely going to be a team to watch for, and they're not going to be any pushover. So for me, I think Wisconsin is going to be a fun team to watch for next season. And that is pretty much that for the NCAA women's volleyball transfers. So let's jump on into some NCAA men's volleyball action. So Gina did make note of Stanford men's volleyball losing to number 1 Hawaii in the First Point Collegiate Challenge. So I'll briefly get into that matchup just because I actually have a lot of other matchups to recap. But Stanford did take the first set against Hawaii. I do remember that Hawaii did not have Chaz Galloway, and that's a big loss right there because Chaz is a phenomenal outside hitter. He's kind of the new number 1 man going forward, or the new big outside hitter or big man on campus, even though Guilherme Voss is kind of the big man in terms of height. Regardless, Hawaii still isn't at 100%, but Stanford was able to take the first set from Hawaii, and then the next 3 sets went to Hawaii. But I give credit to Stanford. They gave Hawaii as much as they could handle. It's not easy coming off of a bye week. They still kind of had that little rust. And then you're facing the number 1 team that's coming off of 2 losses prior to this whole tournament or challenge happening. So for me, I think that Stanford still poses somewhat of a threat. They still have a little bit to learn, and I think the MPSF as a whole is going to be a beast this season. It's not just going to be UCLA or Pepperdine. You have BYU that's still trying to figure it out. USC is having a very good year. Concordia, unbelievably, is undefeated. And then you also can't sleep on Grand Canyon, which they're going through some ups and downs, but they're definitely competitive because they do have Camden Gianni. So there's that in terms of scratching the surface on the Hawaii Stanford men's volleyball match, and there's a little bit of talk of the MPSF. But jumping to last week's match of the week. So the match of the week last week was USC, or number 7 USC at number 3 Long Beach State. Unfortunately, I did not go to this matchup. I really wanted to, but unfortunately, I sadly was unable to. So the first set, USC really stuck it to Long Beach State. They dominated Long Beach State. I had never seen Long Beach get off to a rather sloppy start. Like, the first set against Ohio State from a couple weeks back was one thing, but against USC, oof. USC won that first set 25-15, and I feel I kind of asked this question. I feel I should maybe ask this question to Alan Knipe about first sets, depending on what happens with Long Beach State's matchup against UCLA this weekend. So there's that right there. So the second set, Long Beach State actually led throughout most of the set. But USC, being the scrappy and talented team that they are, they actually led 20-19 in the second set. And it looked as if USC was actually going to pull this second set win off. However, Long Beach State, being the great team that they are, they led 23-21, only to see USC tie it up. But then Spencer Olivier and Godbold both had kills to give Long Beach State the second set, and that was a crucial set. If Long Beach does not take that second set, they're down 0-2. USC has all the pressure on them, and then more importantly, they have all the momentum on them. So for me, I think that was the turning point of that match. And then set 3, Long Beach State was in no danger, and the closest USC got was 3 points of Long Beach State, as Long Beach State actually led by as many as 6, and they won the third set 25-21 as the Beach went up 2-1 on USC. And then Long Beach State led throughout most of set number 4, but then USC was able to take the lead at 17-16, and then it was 18-18 at one point. However, Long Beach State outscored USC 7-1, and they eventually won off of a service ace from Alex Nikolov, and that's how Long Beach State beat USC. They won the fourth set 25-19, and honestly, I wasn't too surprised Long Beach State won. Obviously, that first set kind of surprised me. I'm like, whoa. USC never really drubs Long Beach State that bad. Like, I was fearing that USC was going to turn the clock back to 2019 when USC beat Long Beach State in USC's small gymnasium after, fun fact, the Galen Center was actually being rented out by I think it was the Nickelodeon Awards or the Nick Awards or the Kids' Choice Awards. Kids' Choice Awards, that's what it was. Regardless, that was the last time USC beat Long Beach State, 2019, when they swept USC. As Long Beach State was led by Alex Nikolov, who had 24 points. He had a hitting percentage of .476, and he only had 4 hitting errors. Spencer Olivier also chipped in 12 kills. He hit .429, and then Clark Godbold added 8 kills. Olivier and Mason Briggs each chipped in 10 digs, and then Aiden Knipe added 8 digs. As a team, Long Beach State hit .356, which was very impressive. They also had 6 service aces, which half of them came from Alex Nikolov. As for me, Long Beach State really flexed their muscle in this match. USC was led by Simon Gallas, who had 17 kills, only 2 hitting errors for a hitting percentage of .500. Lucas Frasrand added 11 kills, and he hit .529, and then Sam Cobran chipped in 9 kills. As a team, I was very surprised by this, as we say hello to Larry B., who says Hawaii. Yes, I spoke a little about Hawaii, but I didn't go too in-depth on them. But this was surprising to me as a whole for USC. As a whole, the Trojans hit .388. Now, when you see that number, you would think USC would win that match, but unfortunately, they just ran into kind of a buzzsaw that was Long Beach State. And then you also got to remember that Long Beach State was coming off of a loss to Penn State, so I think maybe Long Beach State was kind of the bear that was poked too much, so I think USC kind of caught Long Beach State in a bad mood after that first set. As a whole, though, USC only had 11 hitting errors, which is quite nice, and their only bad hitting set of the match was set 4, where they only hit 200. Long Beach State, on the other hand, their bad set of the match was the first set when they hit 0. They had 7 kills and 7 hitting errors. So for me, I think Long Beach State, after that first set, they rebounded quite nicely as they hit 400 or higher, which is very impressive. So for USC, they also chipped in 6 service aces, two of which actually came from Gallas, Cobran, and Frasrand. Their dig leader was Cole Paxson, who had 8 digs, as Long Beach State outdug USC 37-31. So I'm sorry, Larry, but USC fell to Long Beach State. But the Trojans are still having a great season. It's just that they hit a little bit of a rough patch on the road. It's always tough to beat Long Beach at Long Beach, as Penn State was kind of the lone exception, considering Long Beach just could not find an answer for Penn State's middle blocker, but it is what it is. So that was actually Friday's matchup. We'll jump to Saturday's matchup as Grand Canyon, number 8, Grand Canyon took on number 6, Lewis, on the road in Romeoville, Illinois. So the first set, GCU actually led 15-12, as GCU was fearing nothing from playing on the road. But then Lewis took the lead at 17-16, and eventually Lewis needed 3 set points in order to defeat Grand Canyon in the first set. They were up 24-22, and then Grand Canyon tied it at 24, sent it to deuce, and then Grand Canyon just could not find that big kill or the big swing to give them that set, as Lewis took the first set 26-24. Set 2, long story short, Grand Canyon was in no danger whatsoever. Set 3, Lewis led 16-12, and they were actually up 23-20. But then, credit to GCU, they were down 24-21. They dodged 2 set points to make it a 1-point game. But a hitting error from GCU gave Lewis the set, which that must have been a backbreaker for Grand Canyon, because obviously in a deuce game, anything can happen. But unfortunately, Grand Canyon just could not get that 24th point. And then set 4, GCU was in little to no danger as they were able to force a 5th set, as it was tight early on, but then GCU was able to just pull away and make sure they did not lose in 4 sets. As for the 5th set, GCU actually led throughout the first half of the 5th set, but then Lewis, being the talented team that they are, took their first lead of the set at 10-9, and then they never looked back, as Lewis eventually won the 5th set 15-10. So after taking their first lead of the set in set 5, Grand Canyon only scored 1 point. And that's kind of a bummer, just because Grand Canyon is a good team. I think Grand Canyon has a lot of promise to them. The problem is that playing in a different environment really kind of hurt them. Lewis was led by Tyler Mitchum, who had 16 kills, and he hit 444. He actually got help this time. Like, Lewis is actually giving their star players more help. They're not just having one player carry the team, as Jason Gibbs chipped in 14 kills and Kevin Calling added 10 kills. And then Cole Brillhart added 8 kills. As Lewis actually ran a 6-2 offense, as Kevin Calling also added 29 assists, while Tyler Morgan chipped in 26 assists. And believe it or not, Kevin Calling was kind of your stat stuffer of the match, as he chipped in 12 digs. So he basically flirted and messed around and got a triple-double. So good job to Kevin Calling. And then Jason Gibbs also added a double-double, as he had 11 digs to go along with his 14 kills. So that's great stuff from Lewis. And I think Kevin Calling is kind of my stat stuffer of the weekend. Maybe I should have like a little, that should be my little bit of an award for that. Your stat stuffer of the weekend award. Sponsored by nobody. So as a team, Lewis hit 266, which isn't bad, especially when they're getting all their hitters involved. Like, you sometimes have to win a little bit ugly in order to win at all. And then winning at home is big time right there, especially since Lewis kicks off MIVA play this week. So for Grand Canyon, they were led by Camden Gianni, who had 25 kills. Christian Janke chipped in 15 kills. And I should mention that Gianni hit 400 on the match, while Hugo Fisher added 7 kills. But he did have 8 hitting errors, which did not make his hitting percentage look all that good. Grand Canyon hit 279 as a whole, as they got 10 digs from Cole Udall, and they also got 10 digs from Janke, and then Fisher chipped in 8 digs as well. So that's pretty much your Grand Canyon-Lewis match. It was definitely worth the hype, honestly, and this was kind of close to being my match of the week right there, as you obviously can't go wrong with like a crossover matchup right there. So for me, I think Grand Canyon and Lewis are kind of two different teams. Lewis is kind of right there when it comes to winning the MIVA. I think they can win the MIVA, but there's a lot of talent in that conference. And then Grand Canyon's kind of the same thing, as Grand Canyon can win the MPSF. However, you have a lot of talent in that conference. So both these teams are going to be figuring out how they'll be able to win said conferences despite all the talent that there's in. Also on Saturday, we had number 15 UC Irvine hitting the road to Inglewood to take on number 4 UCLA, as UCLA actually edged out UC Irvine in 5 sets. As the first set, UCLA led most of the way, and then they actually led 19-12. They led by as many as 7, but then UC Irvine, being the resilient team that they are, got down to within 1 at 24-23. But then UCLA closed it out with a kill courtesy of Guy Guinness as the Bruins took the first set. That would have been crucial if the Anteaters took that first set. But they did take the second set as UCI actually led 14-9. The Bruins scored 6 straight and eventually led 17-15. But then UC Irvine went on an 8-2 run and closed out that second set. And that was also a crucial set right there. If UC Irvine lost that set, then it would have been game over right there. Just because you're down 0-2 to the number 4 team in the nation, you're on the road, and you're coming off of a loss to UCLA. Yes, UC Irvine and UCLA played earlier in the week as the Anteaters lost to the Bruins in 4 sets. So the third set, UCLA was basically in little to no danger. So there was that right there. And set 4 was kind of the same thing as UC Irvine was in no danger whatsoever. So it was very one-sided. I was very surprised to see that it was one-sided in terms of UCLA winning the third set and then UC Irvine winning the fourth set. So set 5, it was close as the biggest lead of the set for the most part was 2, but then UCLA led 12-9 and they eventually went up by 4 and closed it out thanks to a kill from Ethan Champlin as UCLA avoided the upset. It would have been critical had UCLA lost that one. And give credit to UC Irvine. They've played a bunch of their opponents close. They obviously lost to Stanford. They lost to USC in 5, Stanford in 5, UCLA in 5. Then they also lost to USC, and then they lost to UCLA, like I just mentioned. So for UC Irvine, it's obviously a tough time for them, but they're playing some of these teams close. They're kind of right there. Remember, they lost a bunch of good players to graduation. UCLA had 4 players in double digits in terms of kills, as Edo David led the way with 20 kills. He hit 353 on the night. Guy Guinness had 13 kills, only 1 hitting error for a hitting percentage of .706. Bananas right there. And then Ethan Champlin and Merrick McHenry each had 10 kills. McHenry hit 529 while Champlin hit 286. As a team, UCLA hit 402, which was very impressive. When you're hitting over 400, that's when you know you have it going on. As we say hello to Pierre Moss, he says, have a great show, Teran. I appreciate you tuning in, Pierre. Now, UCLA or UC Irvine did not have too big of a blocking stat, as UCLA only had 5 blocks as a team, while UC Irvine only had 3.5. And then the digs weren't too big either, as both teams had a combined 46 digs, with Irvine having 5 and UCLA having only 21. Irvine having 25 and UCLA having 21. So UC Irvine was led by Francesco Sani, who had 19 kills and a hitting percentage of .484. Hilaire Heno had 13 kills and a hitting percentage of .455. Those were pretty much your two-headed monster, as the two combined for 32 kills out of UC Irvine's 49. As a team, UC Irvine hit 370, which was quite impressive. However, in set 5, they only had 2 kills in that 5th set, which that's not going to really get the job done unless you're blocking a whole lot or you're forcing UCLA into a whole lot of errors. You cannot win a set with just 2 kills. And then obviously having 2 hitting errors doesn't help matters. So for me, UC Irvine, I think, kind of ran out of gas in that 5th set. Still a great effort nonetheless. Alright, now let's get on into the upset. So let's jump back to Friday. So this upset, I didn't even know this match actually happened. As Concordia Irvine, which was undefeated going into that matchup, defeated number 13, I think it was, number 13 UC San Diego in 4 sets at the Rimac Arena, which I was surprised they were able to get the win at the Rimac Arena, as UC San Diego was indeed number 13. So for the first set, UC San Diego took its first lead at 13-12 and eventually led 21-20. It was a very tight set. It was mainly dominated by Concordia, but then the Tritons had something to say about that. But then the Eagles outscored the Tritons 5-1 to win the first set 25-22. Second set, UC San Diego was in no danger after trailing 1-0 to Concordia. Then in set 3, the biggest lead of that set was 2, as there were 18 ties and 7 lead changes. And UC San Diego had set point at 24-23, but they just could not close out as Concordia scored 3 straight points to win that third set and take the 2-1 lead. And then eventually Concordia used that momentum and carried it to set 4. But credit to the Tritons, they tied the setup at 15-15 after falling behind in that fourth set. But then after that, it was basically all Concordia as they registered their 5th win of the season, and they remained undefeated as Concordia, they're looking good so far as they were led by Jonathan Carlson, who had 17 kills and a hitting percentage of .441. He also chipped in 10 digs as well, which was quite nice. Uriel Batista added 15 kills. I actually have had the honor of witnessing Uriel Batista back in his days at Long Beach City when they played Orange Coast College, which was quite nice. He's a great player, and I think he's very passionate for the game. Eric Boisvert chipped in 11 kills and a hitting percentage of .348 and also added 9 digs as Concordia hit .350 for the match, which is very impressive. They also ran a bit of a 6-2 as Mackay Lipson had 34 assists and McLean Mott chipped in 18 assists. As a team, Concordia had 7 blocks as a whole compared to UC San Diego's 6 blocks, which isn't bad. As for UC San Diego, now, UC San Diego obviously lost that one, but something to note is that UC San Diego did not have the services of Kyle McCauley, who was actually 3rd in the nation in kills. This was according to the UC San Diego coach, and it was not fun for UC San Diego. Without Kyle McCauley, they're just not the same team, which is unfortunate, and the coach did not give any specific reason why Kyle was out. I don't know if it was because of COVID or injury. Regardless, no Kyle McCauley, as UC San Diego had to be led by Ryan Ka, who had 18 kills, while Wyatt Harrison chipped in 11 kills. Logan Clark also added 9 kills for the Tritons, while Charlie Siragusa added 7 kills. Matt Palma chipped in 17 digs, while Siragusa had 10 digs, and Harrison added 7 digs. As a team, UC San Diego, despite not having Kyle McCauley, hit a whopping .319, which was pretty good, actually. Their only bad hitting set was set number 3, surprisingly, as they hit only .250. Other than that, they were solid as they hit over .300. Concordia's not-so-good hitting set was set 1, where they only hit .100, which is one of the reasons why UC San Diego just pretty much routed them in that second set. So for me, my takeaway is UC San Diego needs Kyle McCauley. He's kind of their heartbeat of the team. Now, Concordia, on the other hand, they are 5-0, but that 5-0 is not a little misguiding, if you ask me, as it's not really the best 5-0 it's not the best 5-0 record out there, as their wins have come against St. Xavier, St. Catherine, the Masters College, and then St. Catherine again. This was kind of their first true victory, as Concordia actually will be playing UC San Diego not next week, but the following week, as this week they're on a bye, and then they're also at UC Irvine. So Concordia isn't really playing the most stiffest competition, and I'm not going to judge just because their competition will be stepping up. They will be playing UC San Diego again at Rimac Arena again. And then they're also playing Long Beach State, and then they're also playing the MPSF, which has some really talented teams like Grand Canyon and BYU and Stanford and UCLA, and then obviously USC. So Concordia is kind of going to have an uphill climb. I understand winning is important, but obviously having that talented repetition is really good. And nothing against St. Catherine and the Masters, but those matchups aren't really the greatest matchups. I want to say some of those teams are like NAIA. Again, I'm not going to judge, but maybe Concordia just needed new matchups just because they had COVID outbreak or something like that. Because you got to remember that they were supposed to play in the Gaucho Invitational, but unfortunately they pulled out due to COVID concerns. So it was quite the bummer for Concordia, so they're still trying to figure it out. I'm going to try to somewhat breeze through these next two. So the biggest upset that happened on Friday was number 2 Pepperdine losing at the Thunderdome in Santa Barbara to UC Santa Barbara. So this was the rematch of these two teams, as these two teams met earlier in the season as the Gauchos defeated the Waves in 5 sets at Pepperdine. As the first set, for everyone that remembers, UC Santa Barbara actually lost that set. That was actually the only first set lost by the Gauchos all season, and that was to Pepperdine. This time, Pepperdine kind of turned the tables. As set 1, UC Santa Barbara led by as many as 8, and it looked as if the Gauchos were going to cruise. However, Pepperdine made a comeback, but unfortunately they could not close, as despite it being pushed to a deuce game, UC Santa Barbara took the first set against Pepperdine 26-24. The second set, it was just dominated by the Gauchos. They never trailed. There were no ties, as the Santa Barbara took the second set 25-19. It looked as if it was going to be a sweep. However, credit to the Waves. They scored the first 3 points, but it was a close set. However, in the end, it was 23-23 after Santa Barbara made somewhat of a comeback. But to the dismay of the Gaucho fans, they had back-to-back errors, which gave Pepperdine the third set 25-23. Now, the fourth set was basically the end game for Santa Barbara, as they dominated that set. They never trailed, no ties. Santa Barbara was in little to no danger as they took that fourth set 25-15, and they took the match over Pepperdine, which was actually their fourth win over a top 9 opponent. And yes, I actually found out top 9 opponent. It's like, just say top 10. Regardless, they are 4-0 against top 9 opponents. And they're also unbeaten when Dane Chalmers is in the lineup. And he actually did have quite a bit of an impact, as Chalmers had 7 kills. He also led the team in digs with 10. Ryan Wilcox led the way with 15 kills and a hitting percentage of .258. Nick Amoruso had 12 kills, while Connor Dunn added 40 assists. Now, the reason why I make note of the setter was that Connor Dunn actually filled in for Patrick Paragas, and Nick Amoruso filled in for Ja Haoshin, the opposite for UC Santa Barbara, as both of them are sophomores. And disappointingly, UC Santa Barbara did not have Paragas or Haoshin. I want to say it was COVID, but I'm not sure about that. Regardless, UC Santa Barbara did not have those two players, but Dunn and Amoruso stepped up, and then it wasn't just the Ryan Wilcox show. It was basically everyone doing their part to chip in. They even had a few kills from Brandon Hicks. As UC Santa Barbara as a team, this was kind of the big stat right here. This was the stat that stood out to me. They had a grand total of, get this, they had 18 blocks as a team compared to Pepperdine's 9, which is very impressive. As a result of having 18 blocks, Pepperdine only hit 195, as they were led by Jacob Steele, who had 17 kills. He hit 294, which was impressive. Spencer Wickens added 15 kills, and he hit 273. And then Jalen Jasper chipped in 8 kills, but had 8 hitting errors. And Pepperdine only had 1 service ace compared to 17 service errors, which is not good. That's not going to help you win matches. And then obviously the blocks, getting doubled up in blocks was very mind-boggling. And pretty much Pepperdine got outdid in every facet of the game. In terms of hitting percentage, in terms of service aces and service errors, even though the service errors were neck and neck between those two teams, and then blocking and digging the ball, it was just not a good night for Pepperdine. And if Pepperdine wants to be successful, they're going to have to start getting it together. Maybe they have some players out with COVID protocols, but regardless, they should not be losing to a team who has 2 of its top players missing, and they're having to start sophomores. So jumping on into the last matchup to recap, this was actually... Oh, by the way, UC Santa Barbara was ranked number 11, while Pepperdine was number 2. So that's how big of an upset it was. But then again, the Gauchos have kind of had Pepperdine's number ever since last season, where they knocked them out of the first round of the NCAA tournament. So you got to remember that. So now to the last matchup. We have number 10 Ball State at number 9 BYU. This was actually the second meeting between these two teams. This was on Saturday. The first meeting actually saw BYU reverse sweep Ball State, and I was very impressed by this. I was like, whoa. I was more impressed that Ball State had a 2-0 lead, but then for BYU to reverse sweep them is quite astounding. The fact that they even got to that point was mind-boggling. So the first set was very tight until BYU was able to win the points that truly mattered, as there was 8 ties, 3 lead changes, and eventually Ball State won BYU won the first set 25-23. Ball State never trailed in the second set, and they were only tied once as they won that second set 25-19. Now the third set was banana loopies, as the biggest lead of that set was 3 points. And there were 26 ties. 26 ties. It was just that crazy of a third set. Both these teams needed that set. Ball State needed 6 set points in order to close the match. BYU actually had 2 set points, but unfortunately they just could not close the deal, as Ball State won that third set 33-31. Very crazy right there, especially winning on the road in that third set. And then the fourth set, Ball State wasn't really in too much danger as they won the fourth set 25-20, and they salvaged a split against BYU. It kind of goes to show that Ball State is kind of the real deal, as the Cardinals were led by Caleb Jennis, who had 19 kills, while Dyer Ball had 17 kills and a hitting percentage of .355. Quinn Isaacson had 16 digs and 2 kills and 50 assists. And the stat that stood out to me was the blocks, as Ball State had 18 blocks compared to BYU's 11. And that was quite impressive, especially in a 2-hour match right there. And as a team, Ball State hit 278. Now for BYU, they actually had 3 players in double digits in terms of kills, as Capono Brown had 19 kills and he hit 441. David Gardini didn't really have his best night. He had 14 kills, yes, but he hit only 194, which is, give him credit. And then Milks Romanis added 11 kills, but he only hit 59 on the set, or on the match. Mitchell Worthington chipped in 12 digs, as he was kind of their dig leader. Their next dig leader was Brown, who had 16 digs. And as a team, BYU only hit 233, which was, against a tough Ball State team like that. I expected a little bit better from BYU, especially since they were coming off of that win. So, yeah, I am a little surprised to say the least, but it is what it is. So that is pretty much that for all of the recaps of the matches right there. So let's jump on into the AVCA coaches poll. I actually kind of spoiled the coaches poll in my intro, which is kind of my bad, but we have a new number 1, as some of you might know. So quite a bit of movement in the coaches poll, as 15 through 11 consists of Lincoln Memorial. Lincoln Memorial, I'm not kidding you, Lincoln Memorial is number 15 in the AVCA Division 1 and 2 men's volleyball coaches poll. 14 is UC San Diego, which is kind of a surprise. 13 is Stanford, Ohio State is 12, and 11 is BYU. 10 through 6 consist of Ball State at 10, Grand Canyon at 9, UC Santa Barbara at 8, and USC at 7. And then Lewis at 6. 5 through 1 consists of Pepperdine at 5, Penn State at 4, Hawaii at 3, UCLA at 2, and since Hawaii is not number 1, your new number 1 team of the AVCA coaches poll is Long Beach State. So the beach is back on top in terms of the coaches polls. So some of you are probably wondering, who the heck is Lincoln Memorial and how did they get into the top 15? So for starters, Lincoln Memorial is actually 6-0. I was unaware of this, but they actually have a couple big wins. First of all, their first matchup of the season against Lewis was canceled, which is disappointing. However, they actually defeated, at the time, number 11 Loyola of Chicago in straight sets. They won the match 25-21, 25-22, 25-15, which was very impressive in only 84 minutes, which is quite nice. So to beat Loyola of Chicago at home is quite impressive, if you ask me. And then they followed up that win with another big win as they defeated McKendree at home in 4 sets, 25-22, 25-22, 18-25, 25-17, 25-16. So beating McKendree is no small feat, just because McKendree is also an improved team, according to Kevin Birch. All of their other wins have come against Purdue of Fort Wayne in straight sets. They defeated King in 5 sets. King of Tennessee, it looks like. And then they also defeated Erskine in straight sets, and then Emmanuel in straight sets as well. So for Lincoln Memorial, it's quite nice to see them actually in the top 15. My big concern is this. Obviously, they're playing in the IVA conference, and that's going to consist of all the Carolina schools. However, they are facing some stiff competition coming up. It's not going to be this week, but it's going to be the following week. They're going to play not 1, not 2, but 3 matches at Hawaii. 3 matches at Hawaii. Lincoln Memorial must have cojones for that. And they're all starting, well, 2 of them are actually starting at 12 a.m. Eastern Time. So midnight Eastern Time on Friday and Saturday, which in Hawaii time, that's only 6 p.m., and that's actually 9 p.m. on the West Coast. And then on Sunday, Lincoln Memorial plays Hawaii at 10 p.m. Eastern Time, which is 4 p.m. Hawaii time and 7 p.m. Pacific time. So there's that right there. So I'm actually going to be quite interested to see how Lincoln Memorial does this season. Maybe if they keep it up, they could actually move up, but can they really beat Hawaii? They also play at Ohio State, which is going to be a challenge just because Ohio State is good on paper. So we'll have to keep an eye on Lincoln Memorial going forward. So before we head on into a commercial break, I actually forgot to talk about this in the NCAA Women's Volleyball Transfer News, but Michigan State has hired their new women's volleyball coach. Their new volleyball coach is Leah Johnson, the former Illinois State women's volleyball coach, as she led Illinois State to 104 wins and 53 losses. And she also included 5 postseason appearances with Illinois State, 4 of which were actually NCAA tournament appearances, which marked the longest streak in Illinois State women's volleyball history in 4 decades. As this news was broken today at approximately, I think it was noon our time, and then 2 p.m. Michigan time or 11 a.m. Pacific time, 2 p.m. Eastern time. Regardless, the news was broken today as the press release says, Leah brings a track record of success on the court and on the recruiting trail to Michigan State volleyball, according to athletic director or vice president Alan Haller. And then Johnson says, I am humbled and excited by the opportunity to lead Michigan State volleyball program, or the Michigan State volleyball program. Thank you to Vice President and Director of Athletics Alan Haller for entrusting me with the legacy of success built by Kathy George and the coaches before her. The Big Ten is the premier volleyball conference in the country, and I am thrilled to be coaching in such a competitive league. Michigan State has the potential to be in the national conversation on an annual basis. I'm eager to get to work helping the team achieve greatness on and off the court. And something I do need to make note of in terms of Johnson is that she actually had the youngest team in the MVC, as Illinois State was led to a 19-14 overall record last season, and they even went 13-5 in conference play, which was very impressive. And they actually won 8 straight matches in MVC action, as that also included 17 sets, and one of those wins was actually the 100th victory as a member of Illinois State. And they even defeated the number 1 seed Loyola in 5 sets to capture their 3rd straight MVC conference title, which actually turned out to being a reverse sweep for Illinois State. So I think this is kind of a good hire for Michigan State. Considering that the Big Ten has so many competitive teams, I think Michigan State can do a lot with this. And I think that Michigan State can maybe challenge some of these tough teams. You also got to remember that Michigan State did beat Purdue one time this past season. So for me, I think Michigan State landed a big-time hire with this coach, and I think that they are in good hands with this coach, and I really think Michigan State is on the fast track to success. However, you got to remember they did lose their big outside hitter, and it really is a bummer for Michigan State that they just lost their outside hitter, Sarah Franklin, after the hiring of Leah Johnson. So for me, I think it's going to be a little bit of getting used to finding Michigan State's footing when it comes to possibly getting wins, but I'm confident that they can get it done. So we'll see what happens with Michigan State going forward, because obviously she said it best, the Big Ten is very competitive, and I think that if they want to do good, they're going to have to play strong, just because there are no easy wins. Even against the worst teams, it's always a challenge. So winning at Purdue is no easy feat, and for Michigan State to do that is quite impressive. Now it's all about beating all of the other teams. That's not just the Rutgerses or the Iowas. It's all about beating some of the other teams. So we'll see if Michigan State can do that next season with Leah Johnson. But on that note, we're actually going to take ourselves a quick commercial break. When we come back, we're going to have some AVP talk. We're also going to have some 3C2A men's volleyball discussion. And then I'll send you all on your way. So you're listening to Set Point here on IA Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that sports. We'll be right back after this.
What's up, sports fans? Are you looking for the latest on Northern California sports? Then take a trip out west with me, your host, Gina G, on Reppin' the NorCal Sports, right here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. I'll be bringing it to you all the way live every Monday at 3 p.m. Pacific, 6 p.m. Eastern. And it's always a packed show. I'll bring you everything Dynastic 49ers, the bite of the San Jose Sharks, torture of the San Francisco Giants, the Golden State Warriors that we still believe. Then take you across the bay to the rise and grind of the Oakland A's. I've got you covered on college ball from the Cal Bears to the Stanford Cardinal, so that no matter what, reppin' a NorCal sports is always reppin' the Bay. So if you bleed red and gold, or you're looking to keep an eye out west in them thar hills, don't miss me, Gina G, on reppin' a NorCal sports. Catch me every Monday at 3 p.m. Pacific, 6 p.m. Eastern, and I'll have your fandom repped harder than a trio of defenders guarding Stephen Curry before his buzzer beater is Gucci.
What is going on, everybody? My name is Harrison Glazer, and we're coming at you from the Show That Never Sleeps podcast. I cover the Jets, the Islanders, the Nets, and the Yankees.
This is Pierre Moss, and I cover the Mets, Knicks, Rangers, and the Giants.
Our show is live every Wednesday through Spreaker and a bunch of other ways to get our content. Again, we're the Show That Never Sleeps podcast. We talk about all those New York sports. It's a lot of fun. We get into all of it. Please tune in. Again, that's Wednesdays at 6 p.m.
And we look forward to having you guys right here on 90 Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
Back with segment number 2 of Set Point here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that sports. Definitely do check out Reppin' the NorCal Sports with Gina G, who is still in the chat room listening while she's watching the Golden State Warriors. I definitely do appreciate you tuning in, Gina. Her show comes on every Tuesdays at 1 p.m. primarily. Sometimes it'll have to be moved around, kind of like how my show is, the SoCal Supreme Sports Show. So I'm a little thankful that Set Point is still able to be on Mondays, despite it being on at a later time. And then also check out the Show That Never Sleeps with Harrison Glazer and Pierre Moss. They talk about New York sports, while Gina G talks about Northern California sports, such as Stanford. So now, without any further delay, let's get on into segment number 2. We actually have more volleyball to talk about. So let's actually switch gears to the beach volleyball side of things. So the AVP just released its schedule, as they not only have released its schedule, they announced that the AVP in terms of beach volleyball is going to be an extended summer. It's not just going to be all the way till summer. This AVP tour is actually going to go all the way till November. I'm not kidding you. The AVP is going all the way till November. The whole shebang starts in May when they have the AVP Pro Series. Like, they have 3 different things. They have they have 3 different tours. They have the AVP Pro Series, they have the AVP Tour Series, and then they have the AVP Gold Series. The AVP Gold Series will have 3 events. And then the AVP Pro Series will have 5 events, and then the Tour Series will have 7 events. And then they also have the 2022 Phoenix Championship on September 23rd and 24th. So looking at the Gold Series, The Gold Series will start in Atlanta on August 5th through 7th, then in Manhattan Beach in Southern California on August 19th through the 21st, and then the Gold Series will end in Chicago at September 2nd through the 4th. And then, like I said, they all have the Phoenix Championship in Phoenix, Arizona, which is from September 23rd through the 24th. Jumping over to the AVP Pro Series, they have the Pro Series starting out, which starts out the whole AVP tour, as the AVP Pro Series starts in May, as it starts on May 6th and goes through the 8th. Then it goes to New Orleans, the Bayou, starting out on May 27th through the 29th. Then it goes to Southern California in Hermosa Beach in July, starting on July 8th through the 10th. Then the Pro Series jumps to Fort Lauderdale on July 29th through the 31st, and then the AVP Pro Series ends on September 16th through the 18th in Atlantic City. So that is that for the Pro Series. Well, the AVP Tour Series has 7 events. The first one is going to be on June 11th and 12th in Muskegon. I probably butchered that name, but that's your first AVP Tour Series. Then the second Tour Series starts out on July 2nd through 3rd in Denver, Colorado. Never would have guessed we'd see volleyball out there, even though they do have an NVA team, and then they also have 2 solid college programs, mainly with the Colorado Buffs. But then after the Denver Tour Series, they have the Waupaca Tour Series on July 7th through the 8th, so that's basically less than a week after that in terms of the Tour Series. Then the AVP Tour Series takes it to Atlantic City on July 22nd through the 23rd. Then the Tour Series heads to Virginia Beach on August 27th through the 28th. Then this was probably going to be the one I'm circling on my calendar. And I hope I don't have anything going on these 2 days. The AVP Tour Series will be heading to my neck of the woods, Orange County, as it'll be heading to Huntington Beach on November 12th through the 3rd. And then the AVP Tour Series and the final AVP event will be closing on November 19th through the 20th in Clearwater. So I really want to go to an AVP event. It's so tough for me to go considering Manhattan Beach is the closest one, and that's not really close in my neck of the woods. Not unless I want to take like a bunch of buses to get there, but I digress. So that's basically your AVP schedule right there for 2022. It's going to be a lot of fun. And this means that Set Point will have no excuse and no form of slowing down. Maybe for like some of the bye weeks that the AVP has, but I could probably still figure out something to keep Set Point going all through the summer. And then you also have the NCAA women's volleyball season starting up. So I'm going to have a lot of volleyball on my dish when it comes to the fall. So that's going to be very fun, though. And I'm looking forward to it. And the AVP is always something I look forward to. I definitely have to make note of that. I know this is no knock to like some of the other volleyball shows out there. I know some volleyball shows just like to do NCAA or just one gender part of a certain volleyball aspect. But I like to cover all things volleyball, even if it's high school volleyball, even if it's NCAA beach volleyball, NCAA men's volleyball, NCAA women's volleyball, the NVA, heck, even Team USA when it comes to the Pan Am Games. Well, not the Pan Am Games, but the US Tour, where they go on tour and they play in like tournaments against other teams and whatnot. So I like to cover all volleyball things, you know. And now that we're on the topic of covering all things volleyball, that's actually a perfect segue to go into the next topic, which is actually 3C2A men's volleyball. So for those of you wondering what the 3C2A is, it's the California Community College Athletic Association. It's basically junior college men's volleyball in California. And this past weekend, I actually went to Orange Coast College to check out to check out the North versus South John Altobelli quad tournament. I don't think it's considered a tournament. It's just quad matchups. It's basically like a crossover. It's basically two teams from the same conference play two teams from another conference. They all get to play one another for like a trophy or whatnot. So I actually did get to see two former Set Point guests coach their teams. I got to see Travis Turner of Orange Coast College coach his Pirates to a 2-0 day on Saturday as they beat El Camino in 3 sets, 25-16, 25-16, and 25-18. While the second match that Orange Coast College won, they actually won that one in 5 sets, 21-25, 25-22, 25-22, 23-25, and 15-8. So it was very impressive that the Pirates were able to get those wins, especially against Long Beach City. That's not an easy team to beat. And perennially, Long Beach City and Orange Coast are very good. Irvine Valley is also just as good just because despite them being under a new head coach, they have quite the smarts in terms of coaching experience, and they returned most of their players from the COVID-shortened season from last year. It was basically just all of the Orange Empire Conference teams and none of the other teams that got to have a season, which is kind of saddening, but it was great for the Orange Empire Conference team. So I actually caught up with Ryan Windisch for a little bit just because I obviously didn't want to eat up Windisch's time all that much just because he had to go through 2 5-set matches, which was basically 2+ hours. And honestly, I didn't want to drain him too much and eat up most of his time and whatnot. So here is my short but brief interview with Irvine Valley men's volleyball coach Ryan Windisch after the Lasers' win over El Camino in 5 sets.
All right, Ryan. So your team just won 2 a 5-set match as you basically went 1-1, but both those matches were 5-set matches. Like, what was going through your head, and how big of a win was this today?
Any win's a big win. We always preach that the next match is the most important. Team effort. We're glad to be on the winning side, though, of the second one.
Chillingworth was the one that really stood out to you, but were there any other heroes like JT Demure or whatnot?
I think everybody contributed today, both outsides, both middles. I think our middles really stepped up late in that 5th set, Beamer and Julio. So I think it was kind of just a balanced effort all across the board.
Obviously, it's early in the season, but what are ways your team can improve going into next weekend and beyond?
I think that we're just going to focus on our side of the net, handle the serve and pass game, and keep getting better, on the offensive side of things.
And how much do you like being in this quad tournament, and how important is this for your team's growth?
It's great, especially, what it means now being the North-South Altobelli quad. So we're really appreciative of Travis putting this on, getting this going on, and, I definitely am not part of the OCC family, but I understand what it means to them, so I'm glad to be a part of it.
And then Orange Empire Conference play is going to be tough with, obviously, OCC just being up there. Like, what's it going to take to possibly knock them off and possibly make a deep tournament run?
I think it's a long season. We just got to keep working, on our side of the net, one game at a time. Can't overlook anybody. If you don't take care of that first match, then you can't make it to the next one.
So that was my interview with Ryan Windisch, the Irvine Valley men's volleyball coach. Obviously, it was tough losing that first match to Long Beach City. The Lasers actually held a 2-0 lead in the match. The first set, they won 25-23. The second set, they won 25-17. It looked as if the Lasers were going to sweep the match, but Long Beach City, being the talented team that they are and resilient team, took the third set. I believe it was 25-22. And then the fourth set, Long Beach City took that set 25-23 as they forced a 5th set, and they won that one despite needing 3 match points to win that 5th set, as they won it 16-14. And it was quite the impressive win for Long Beach just because they hadn't really had much. They didn't really have a season last year. They did not have a season whatsoever. Same with El Camino. Same with any other Southern California junior college team in terms of men's volleyball. But now everything is starting to get back to normal for the most part. And honestly, I'm glad to see the kids just getting back onto the court, because nothing would stink worse than seeing another shortened season in terms of just having just one conference just duke it out for just a conference championship and not a state championship. So I think Ryan Windisch made a great point of what he just said during my interview. The next match is the most important one, or the most important match is the next one. So for me, Ryan Windisch is a phenomenal coach, and he knows what he's doing with his squad. I think the Lasers are going to be up there. I think this 1-1 weekend is nothing more than a little bit of a blip on the radar, but it does show that the Lasers are for real. And I think that Irvine Valley is a good team. Orange Coast is also up there. They're still trying to figure out things. Last week was their first week of the season, their first full week, as the previous week they actually had to scrimmage. They got to scrimmage against Vanguard University, against another former set point guest, Brad Rostrider, who is the coach of Vanguard. But this week was the first full week for Orange Coast. I did not catch up with Travis Turner after the game just because I had to get home rather sooner than later. And then obviously he was a busy man, so I just couldn't really get to him. But I will eventually try to interview him the next time I see him again. But regardless, or whenever I go to his match, but either way, the Pirates are looking good so far. They're 3-0 after they won those matches, and they also beat Moore Park on Thursday. So I look forward to seeing Irvine Valley and Orange Coast continue its gameplay as the season goes on. Because what matters most is late April volleyball, not early February volleyball. Because losing is inevitable. Teams will always lose along the way, but you'd rather lose early in the season than late in the season when it truly matters, like in the NCAA tournament. Because my MO is, for any college volleyball team or any team whatsoever, you're better off losing early than losing later when it truly matters. So just remember that, volleyball teams. All right, but now before we close out the show, we have to preview the NCAA men's volleyball matches to watch for in Week 6. So we'll start with the sneaky good matchups. So sneaky good matchups on Wednesday and Friday include UC Irvine at number 5 Pepperdine. Now the Anteaters are no longer ranked. The Anteaters don't deserve to be ranked for the time being. They've lost quite a bit of matches. They're 3-7 on the season. They have been competitive in some of their matches, but the Anteaters just aren't cutting it. Their wins haven't really been overly impressive other than the Stanford win. But for me, UC Irvine has a chance to prove themselves against Pepperdine. Pepperdine is coming off of that tough 4-set loss to UC Santa Barbara as they take on another Big West Conference team. So for Pepperdine, they have to get the job done. They cannot afford another loss or two, as conference play is not too far around the corner for Pepperdine, as the Waves are going to be challenged in that conference. As looking at Pepperdine's schedule, after they face UC Irvine this week, they immediately open up MPSF play at Grand Canyon on Friday and Sunday. And that's going to be a tough matchup considering Grand Canyon has debatably the best player in Camden Gianni. And then another sneaky good matchup for this week is number 14 UC San Diego at number 11 BYU. Both those matchups are going to be on Friday and Saturday. So for the Tritons, they're coming off of the loss to Concordia. Hopefully, for their sake, they do get Kyle McCauley back, because he did miss the Concordia game with an unspecified reason, which is unfortunate that he had to miss that game. Hopefully, for the sake of Kevin Ring and the rest of UC San Diego, they're able to get Kyle McCauley back, just because he's kind of that heartbeat. And remember, he is third in kills in terms of the whole darn nation when it comes to volleyball, or the NCAA men's volleyball world. So having Kyle McCauley would be a big beneficial. I think UC San Diego can actually beat BYU. It's going to be tough, though, just because if you can't beat Concordia at Rimac, you're going to have a tough time beating BYU in the Smithfield House, I want to say it's called. Yeah, the Smithfield House in Provo, Utah. As it's basically a raucous crowd and it's higher altitude. So for me, I think beating BYU will be tough, but I think UC San Diego does it. I think they at least get one win. If not, they'll push BYU to 5 sets. Because I think UC San Diego has talent on their team, and I think that when it comes to facing these tough opponents, they need to be ready for Big West Conference play just because they are facing the two-headed monster that is Hawaii and Long Beach State. Yes, UC San Diego was able to prove themselves in the Big West Conference tournament last year against Hawaii, but it's a whole different year, and there's a lot of unknowns and question marks from every team. So I think for UC San Diego, this is their weekend to try to prove themselves. But now jumping for the actual matches to watch for. On Wednesday, we have number 8 UC Santa Barbara at number 7 USC. This is actually going to be the third meeting between the Trojans and the Gauchos. So the Gauchos lost the first 2 matchups at the Thunderdome or wherever they played at in Santa Barbara. But this time they're heading over to Galen Center to take on USC. This is a big matchup for both teams just because UC Santa Barbara is playing great as of late and they have a chance to avenge their first 2 losses of the season. USC coming off of that loss to Long Beach State in which they probably could have won that second set, but we'll never know what could have happened or what could have been. So it's a big matchup for both teams because one of those teams will probably slip out of the top 10 should one team lose. As USC does have some top hitters, but if UC Santa Barbara does get back Ja Hoshin and Pat Paragas, I think UC Santa Barbara is going to be a much better team. And with Dane Chalmers still doing great in the lineup and them being 4-0, I think the Gauchos have to roll with Chalmers and they have to continue their big gameplay. And for me, I think UC Santa Barbara is riding high and they're trying to put everyone on notice that they are the real deal. So jumping over to Thursday, we have number 10 Ball State at number 6 Lewis. MIVA action as the Cardinals play the Flyers. This is going to be a big test for Ball State. They did suffer their first loss of the season in heartbreaking fashion, losing at BYU in a reverse sweep. But they do have a chance to make up for that as they play a very tough and talented Lewis team. I feel that Ball State is still riding high despite that loss to BYU. They rebounded nicely and took the second match. For Lewis, they're going to need to continue to distribute the ball to like everybody. They can't just have the Tyler Mitchum show. It has to be a collective effort right there. And who knows, maybe we'll get another stat stuffer of the week matchup or a stat stuffer of the week from Lewis and their setter. So we'll see what happens. And then Friday, we have the match of the week, in my opinion. And this has to be match of the week. Number 2, UCLA at number 1, Long Beach State. And you already know Set Point is going to be in the house for that matchup. No doubt about it. Nothing, and I mean nothing, is going to prevent me from going to the Long Beach State UCLA matchup. So it's going to be a fun matchup. It's always a barn burner when it comes to UCLA versus Long Beach State in any sort of volleyball, mainly men's volleyball. And the last time these two teams played was basically before the pandemic shut down everything, as Long Beach State beat UCLA in 5 sets at Pauley Pavilion. The last time these two teams played at the Pyramid, UCLA actually snapped the 40-plus game winning streak that Long Beach State had at home, which was quite astounding. And UCLA wasn't even the best. They didn't even have their best team at that. So they're actually hitting their lows more so than their highs. So I think for me, this is going to be a fun matchup. It's a great test for both teams. Both these teams have high expectations, and once again, it's number 1 versus number 2. What more can you ask for when it comes to that matchup? So I think it's going to be a real fun matchup, and I'm glad to be attending this matchup. And definitely do catch me at the scorers table in this barn burner of a matchup. And I hear that, I want to say that capacity at the Pyramid is going to go up. So we'll see. But I for sure have the green light to go to this matchup on Friday. And then another big matchup on Friday is number 8 UC Santa Barbara at number 9 Grand Canyon. So the Gauchos have a big road trip this week. They have a huge road trip as they not only have to play USC on Wednesday, they're not only playing Grand Canyon on Friday, they're also playing Grand Canyon on Saturday. So this is a huge week for UC Santa Barbara, as if they go 3-0, UC Santa Barbara is the real deal. But once again, they are facing Grand Canyon, as they are going to have to face the great hammer of Camden Gianni. Having Ja Hoshin and Pat Paragas is going to be big. But if UC Santa Barbara does manage to salvage at least a split in this series, and then they manage to beat USC, I think it would be crucial for them, and that would definitely solidify them as a top 10 team for the time being, unless the Gauchos start losing to unranked opponents. So for me, I think this is going to be a big-time matchup. I only wish Long Beach State and UCLA was not match of the week. Then I'd probably defer to UC Santa Barbara versus USC probably. So I think for me, the Gauchos have a lot to prove this week. They beat Penn State. They beat Pepperdine twice. They beat Ohio State. Now it's time to see if the Gauchos can win on the road, because 3 of those 4 top 9 wins for UC Santa Barbara have come at the Thunderdome. Their only road win against those top 9 opponents was against Pepperdine at the Firehouse in Malibu, or whatever it's called. Regardless, they won at Pepperdine. So for me, I think for Santa Barbara, I think this is their chance to prove themselves. I really am going to be keeping an eye on this, on all of these matchups that UC Santa Barbara is playing in. So I look forward to seeing what the Gauchos can do. So closing out the matches to watch for is number 12 Ohio State at Lewis. So I think this is kind of a borderline sneaky good matchup, as well as a very good matchup, just because Ohio State is still riding high despite a 0-2 week from the Battle of the Bigs. Unfortunately for Ohio State, their matchups against Mount Olive got canceled, which is mainly unfortunate for the Buckeyes, as they only get to play McKendree and Lewis. So basically it's going to be 2 weeks since, or roughly 2 weeks, that Ohio State last played a match. So they're going to have to bring it against McKendree and Lewis, just because Kevin Birch did say that the MIVA is going to be very tough. It's not just going to be Lewis and Loyola and Ohio State being up there. You've got your Ball State that's up there. You've got McKendree that's up there. Purdue at Fort Wayne is good. Quincy is improved. Lindenwood, you never know what they could pull. Lincoln Memorial, they're having a phenomenal year for starters. The 6-0 start. St. Francis is up there. And then, like I said, Ball State is definitely going to be a challenge. So for Ohio State, they're going to have to play their best game against Lewis, and they're going to have to bring their A game, because they are playing at Lewis, and it's not easy to beat Lewis in Romeoville. So we'll see what happens with the Buckeyes and the Flyers on Saturday. But that is going to do it for the matches to watch for in Week 6, and that's going to do it for Set Point this week. You already know what time it is. It is time to drop that beat, DJ, as I'm about to dip like a banana in chocolate. You feel me? Thank you, everyone, for tuning in to Set Point. I really do appreciate you all tuning in. If you listen live, I appreciate you. If you listen on the playback, I appreciate you. If you listen at work, I appreciate you. If you listen in the wee hours of the morning, I appreciate you. If you listen while watching any other sporting event, I really do appreciate you. Big shout to the chat room, Gina G, Adam Karnick, Mike Pat, Pierre Moss, and Larry B for popping in. I really do appreciate you all tuning in, and I really appreciate everybody who continues to support Set Point. Definitely do check out the other Set Point episodes on iSports Radio's YouTube account. I'll definitely leave a link for that. You can check out all the past episodes when I was an amateur. So I appreciate you all tuning in. Thank you to Gina G, where she says, another awesome show, Teran. I appreciate you. I can't wait to hear repping the NorCal Sports, whenever that may be. For everyone here at IE Sports Radio, this is Teran Rodriguez, signing off. Have yourselves a great rest of the week. Be smart, be safe, don't do anything stupid, and I will see you Saturday on the SoCal Supreme Sports Show. Peace! Actually, I'll see you all Friday for Long Beach State. Then I'll see you all on the airwaves for Saturday when it comes to the SoCal Supreme Sports Show. There we go. Peace!